Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Srimad Bhagavatam review class. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuronmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानो सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नित्यनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Srimad Bhagavatam review class. Today we'll be starting the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and last time we completed the 8th canto and we saw the beautiful story of the surrender of Bali Maharaj unto Lord Vamanadev. And after hearing the story of Bali Maharaj and how Vamanadev he appeared, uh, Parikshit Maharaj he wanted to hear about a similar story where Lord appears in not such a prestigious form. He, as a Vamana, he appeared as a dwarf. So Parikshit Maharaj he asks about Matsya Avatar, and then in description of Matsya Avatar, Shukdev Goswami said that Satyavrat Maharaj, for whom this Matsya Avatar appeared, he became Vivaswan he became the son of Vivaswan, that is Shraddha Dev, in the current Manvantar. So that is the link between the 8th canto and the 9th canto. So this 9th canto is called as Isha Anukatha. Isha Anukatha means the various descriptions of the uh, various avatars and the various devotees of the Lord. And very short stories will come in this canto, describing the principles of bhakti, describing the principles of vairagya and knowledge or vigyan. So the principle of devotional service is explained by giving the example of Ambarish Maharaj. The supreme devotion of Ambarish Maharaj is described here in this canto. And then the example of Yayati is given to describe the principle of renunciation or vairagya. So in this 9th canto, this 9th canto is basically comprised of the kings, the description of the kings who came in the Sun dynasty and the Moon dynasty, Surya Vamsha and Chandra Vamsha. So 13 chapters describe the Sun dynasty and 11 chapters they describe the Moon dynasty. That's how the 24 chapters of the 9th canto are. So Satyavrat Muni, when he asked about Satyavrat Maharaj, he asked about Parikshit Maharaj, he asked about Satyavrat, that he became Vaivaswata Manu. So please tell me about that. So Parikshit Maharaj asks, Manvantarani sarvani toyoktani shrutani me viryani ananta viryasya hares tatra kritani cha. So you have described out all the manvantars and the various activities of the unlimitedly potent Lord in those periods. And you spoke about King Satyavrat also. So this King Satyavrat, who received knowledge from this Matsya Avatar, he became Vaivaswat Manu in the current Manvantara. And he begot many sons headed by Ikshvaku. So he says, I want to hear from your mouth about the dynasty, about the characteristics and the various abilities of all the past, present, and the future kings of in the lineage of Vaivasvata Manu. So that is a question which Parikshit Maharaj is asking from Shukdev Goswami. So Shukdev Goswami, when he hears this question, he says, O Parikshit Maharaj, here in great detail about the dynasty of Vaivasvat Manu, although it is not so easy to describe everything, even if somebody speaks for uh, hundreds of years, we will not be able to describe in full the qualities and the characteristics of the kings of dynasty, kings who appeared in the dynasty of Vaivasvata Manu. So we are beginning the first chapter of the ninth canto. So in this, now Shukdev Goswami, he starts the description of the dynasty of Vaivasvata Manu. So before beginning the description, he takes a proper position and to describe the dynasty of Vaivasvata Manu. So Shukdev Goswami begins by saying that when the entire world is inundated and only the Supreme Lord exists, aham eva sameva agre nanyad yat sadasat param paschadaham yadetatchayo avishishit swasmeham. In the beginning of the creation, only Supreme Lord existed and nothing else. So Sukdev Goswami now begins the description of Garbho Dakshai Vishnu. So that Supreme Lord, who is the super soul of all the beings, he existed at the end of the Brahma's Kalpa. So when everything is inundated in the water, with the water of the Garbhoda ocean, only the Supreme Lord existed. So Brahma's Kalpa means the death of the whole life of Brahma, when Brahma dies. So after Brahmaji also dies, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, so Brahmaji enters the body of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, or he gets liberated. So from the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Brahmaji takes birth, and from Brahmaji, from his mind, Marichi, one of the sages, he appears. From the semen of Marichi, Kashyapa Muni appears through the daughter of Daksha. And Kashyap Muni, he marries Aditi and begets Vivaswan. Vivaswan married Sangya and begot Vaivasvat Manu. Vaivasvat Manu, he married Shraddha, and they begot one daughter and 10 sons. So actually, when it is said that this Ikshvaku, and then it is said that Ikshvaku, he begot 100 sons. So actually, Vivaswan also did not beget 10 sons from the womb of Shraddha, because Ikshvaku appeared from the sneezing of Vaivasvat Manu. It will be described later when this Vaivasvat Manu sneezed from the nostril of Vaivasvat Manu, Ikshvaku was born. So now Shukdev Goswami describes the hierarchy of the first son, that is the first daughter, basically. So Vivaswan, initially he had no sons, and he was really desperate for a son. In order to get a son, he pleaded with Vashishta Muni, and Vashishta Muni, he performed a great sacrifice to satisfy the Devatas Mitra and Varuna. So when this sacrifice was being conducted, both this Shraddha and Vivaswan, they both were seated in this yagya. Vivaswan wanted a son, but Shraddha, his wife, because they both were surviving, she was doing Payovrata. Shraddha was doing Payovrata, subsisting only on milk, and she desired a daughter. Vaivasvat Manu desired a son, and Shraddha desired a daughter. So she approached the priest who was doing the sacrifice, and she requested the priest that you please chant the mantras so that I may get a daughter. So the priest, although he heard this, and as he was offering oblations into the fire, because he was distracted by this request of Shraddha, a daughter was born from the womb of Shraddha, and the daughter was named as Ila. Upon seeing the daughter, although Manu, he was not very satisfied, but he was happy that he got a child because he had no children. But still, he was not so much happy because he conducted the sacrifice because he wanted a son. So Manu, when he understood that a daughter is born, he approached Vashishta Muni. He says, "Oh Vashishta, you are all expert in the Vedic mantras. You are very daksha. You are well versed in all the scriptures. You are self-controlled by nature. You are so very austere. You are sinless. Dagda Kilbisha. Your words, they never go wrong. Then how was the result of this sacrifice was opposite? Because I desired a son and here a daughter is born." So therefore, Prabhupada he emphasizes in the purport that in this Kali Yuga, all these yagyas they are not recommended because it requires so many of the intricacies. If the mantra is not chanted properly, it may give the opposite result. If the Brahmana is not qualified, it will not give the result properly. So therefore, the best is Sankirtana Yagya. Yagyai Sankirtana Praye Yajantihi Sumedasaha. So the most intelligent people, they worship this, they worship the Hare Krishna mantra, they chant this Hare Krishna mantra, they are very, very intelligent. So then, and also Prabhupada writes that, in this current Kali Yuga, we see that there are so many famines and the ecological system is not working properly because people are not following this Sankirtan Yagya. If somebody does Sankirtan, then automatically all the results will be obtained. Yagyarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. If somebody does the yagya, then one gets everything. One gets rain also. Yagyad bhavati parjanya. So this is the best way. Actually, one time one devotee was doing he had gone to one place where there was a famine, and he spoke in the class there that if you do chanting this kirtan, rains will come. So one person, he raised his hand, he challenged. So you are saying that if we'll do kirtan, then rains will come? So this devotee, he had such a great conviction. He said, yes, if everybody in the city, they come together and with their hearts, and when they chant, for sure rains will come. So everybody, they came together and they chanted, and for sure rain started. And the next day, a newspaper reported, Hare Krishna, the rainmakers, So that's what Prabhupada also writes in the purport. That if we chant this Hare Krishna mantra, do this Sankirtan, even rains will come. Vashishta, he was very, very intelligent. He was learned in the scriptures. He understood the cause of this discrepancy. And he told that, because your priest was deviated because of the request of your wife, that's why a daughter is born instead of a son. But you don't worry, by my own prowess, I shall give you a son. So by his own powers, Vasishta, he transformed the daughter, Ila, into a very fine male, and his name was given as Sudyumna. One day, Sudyumna, he went to the forest along with his associates to hunt. And he went near a forest called Sukumar forest, which was there at the bottom of the Meru mountain on the northern direction. There is a forest called Sukumar forest. As soon as these soldiers, along with Sudyumna, he entered the forest, Sudyumna, he saw himself being transformed into a female. He was riding on a very wonderful horse. His horse also became a mare. All the soldiers, they also became women, and everybody was bewildered and confused. Parikshit Maharaj, when he heard this, he asked Shukdeva Goswami, why was that Sukumar forest so empowered? Who made it so powerful? So Shukdeva Goswami, he describes the reason behind it. He says, once in the Sukumar forest, as we had discussed in the 5th canto, in one of the forests on the bottom of this Meru mountain, Lord Shiva resides with Mother Parvati. So that is the forest called Sukumar forest. So once some very great effulgent sages who were fixed in the vows of celibacy and Brahman, they were fixed in Brahman, they came to meet Lord Shiva. At that time, goddess Ambika, he was seated on the lap of Shiva naked. As soon as she saw these sages coming, she tried to cover herself. She became very embarrassed. And the sages, when they saw that Lord Shiva and Parvati engaged in some intimate affairs, they departed from that place and they went to the Badrikashram to have a darshan of Nar Narayan Rishi. So just to please his wife, Lord Shiva, he gave a benediction. From now on, any male entering this forest will transform into a female. From that day on, no male entered that forest. So this Pururava, this Sudyumna, he did not know this. So he entered this forest transformed into a female. So Prabhupada, in the purport, he emphasizes the point that just see, a male became a female. So that shows that body is a dress. The person remained the same. So therefore, this is the proof that soul is eternal, body is temporary. Just like the person changes the dress, the soul also changes the body. So now, Sudyumna, he became a female, Ila. And both all the soldiers and this lady, they were roaming in the forest, bewildered what to do now. They began loitering because she was a very beautiful lady. When Sudyumna became a lady, this lady was very, very beautiful. Buddha, the son of moon god, when he saw this beautiful lady, he desired to marry her. And actually, she also desired to marry him. So they both got married. And Buddha, in the womb of this lady Ila, he begot a child. His name was Pururava. So then after that, Sudyumna, she was in the body of a woman. She started remembering his familial guru Vashishta. Vashishta, he could understand, upon seeing this condition of Sudyumna as a woman, he was also very aggrieved. So Vashishta, he worshipped Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva appeared and he told, okay, I'll give benediction to Sudyumna. Sudyumna may remain 1 month in a male body, other month he'll become a female. So that's how Sudyumna, very embarrassing situation. 1 month he was a male, next month he would become a female. And that's how he would rule the kingdom. But citizens, they were not happy. Because every second month, their king would disappear. So they were not so much happy with this adjustment. So Sudyumna, he begot 3 sons, Utkala, Gaya and Vimala. So when Sudyumna, he became old, he gave the entire kingdom to his first son, Pururava. When he became a lady from Buddha, he begot a son called Pururava. So he gave his entire kingdom to Pururava and he retired for the forest. So this is the end of the first chapter. So now after this, after the retirement of Sudyumna, Shukdev Goswami now describes that Vaivaswata Manu, he again desired to have a son. So again he worshipped the Supreme Lord on the bank of Yamuna for 100 years. He again worshipped the Supreme Lord because he wanted more sons. So after worshipping the Lord for 100 years, he obtained 10 sons. And the eldest of them was Ikshvaku. So he obtained 10 sons, Ikshvaku, Nriga, very famous kings. Nriga, the famous, we have heard in the Krishna book. Nriga, Sharayati, Dishta, Dhrishta, Karushaka, Narishyanta, Prishadra, Nabhaga and Kavi. So these are the 10 sons of Vaivaswata Manu after Sudyumna left for the forest. So now Shukdev Goswami starts the description of the two sons of Vaivasvata, that is Prashadra and Kavi. So he says that, these two sons of Vaivasvata Manu, they did not have any sons. And then he explains the reason. So Prashadra, he was a devoted Kshatriya. He was devoted to cows and Brahmanas. He took a vow to protect the cows. Following the instructions of his guru, he took a vow. He never slept at night. Whole night he would be awake guarding the cows from the animals. He would have a sword in his hand in Virasan. He was right there in the Goshala, personally protecting the cows. One day, it was raining. At night, it was raining, thunderstorms were there, and he was there guarding. A tiger entered the cowshed. And the tiger, as soon as he entered and he roared, the cows, they became so very fearful. They got up and started running here and there. They got scattered everywhere. Tiger seized one of the cows. This cow started screaming in distress. This Prishadra, he wanted to protect the cow, but because it was complete darkness, not even stars were there. Stars were covered with the clouds. Although he wanted to protect the cow and he raised his sword, but mistaking the cow for the tiger, he cut off the cow's head. Cow died. But in the course of moving the sword, one of the ears of the tiger was also cut. Tiger, he became so very fearful, he fled from that place bleeding. Next morning, when Prashadra, he came to know what happened, he realized that I have killed a cow. He became so very morose, so very sad. He started lamenting. Although the sin of this Prashadra, it was unintentional. He did not want to do it. He wanted to protect the cow. He was having a very nice motivation. But unintentionally he killed a cow. Vasishta, when he came to know, he cursed Prishadra to take birth as a Shudra. Prishadra, although there was no fault of his, but still, he accepted the curse with folded hands. Controlling his senses, he left for the forest. He took a vow of brahmacharya, he left. So Prabhupada writes, actually it was the mistake of Vasishta. Instead of doing some arrangement for the atonement of his disciple, he cursed Prishadra. Because, Vasishta, he was also, he was a familial priest. And his intentions also became contaminated. He became Durmati. He lost his intelligence and that's why he cursed Prishadra. But Prishadra, he was fixed in his determination. He did not want to get entangled in the material affairs again. He, with one pointed determination, he worshipped Lord Vasudeva. He was Samadrisha. He was equipoised, equal to everyone, completely detached, Vimukta Sangaha. He was having no attachments. Completely self-controlled, completely peaceful, Shanta. Just dependent. He was not dependent on anyone's charity. Whatever would come on its own accord, he would accept it. In this way, he was rendering devotional service. He traveled all over the earth, just like a Avadhuta. And we have heard about many kings who behaved like Avadhuta, Rishabdev, and then we heard about Avadhut Brahmana, in the 7th canto. So this Prishadra also wandered like an Avadhuta. And people would think he's like a dumb, blind, or deaf. But he was completely absorbed in pure devotional service. This Prishadra, he was such a saintly personality. Once he saw forest fire, and desiring to go back to the spiritual world, he entered that forest fire and he attained Krishna in the spiritual world. So Prabhupada in the purport very beautifully describes how bhakti can destroy any amount of sinful activities, any amount of karmic reactions. Although Prashadra, due to his unintentional karma of killing a cow, he was cursed to become a Shudra in his next life. But by his power of devotional service, he transcended all those curses. That is the power of uh, devotional service. केचित् केवलया भक्त्या वासुदेव परायण अघम धुन्वन्ति कार्त्स्नेन निहारम इव भास्करः. Shukdev Goswami says in the 6th canto, just like when the sun rises, the fog completely gets dissipated. When devotional service rises in the heart, one becomes completely free from any amount of sinful activities, sinful reactions, and even sinful disposition. Aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bijam phalonmukham kramena praliyate Vishnu bhaktir tatmana. Kramena, in sequence, everything is destroyed. Aprarabdha, papa, kuta, bija, everything is destroyed. So that's how Prishadra, he never got a son. Another son of Vaivaswata Manu was Kavi. Kavi, he was the youngest of the Manu's youngest son. He was also completely detached from the material enjoyment. He did not want to enter material enjoyment. So even before attaining the youth, he gave up his kingdom and he entered the forest. Always thinking of the Supreme Lord, he attained perfection of his life. So that's how Kavi also did not have any son. And then Shukdev Goswami describes the dynasties of Karusha. So from Karusha came the Karusha dynasty of the Kshatriya kings. These kings, they ruled the earth and they maintained Brahminical culture. And then from Dhrishta came Dharashtra dynasty. All the Kshatriyas in Dharashtra dynasty became Brahmanas. So therefore Prabhupada writes in the purport that anyone can become a Brahmana. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they are not decided by the birth. They are decided based on the qualities. So then after describing the dynasties of Karusha and Dhrishta, Shukdev Goswami describes the dynasty of Nriga. So in this Nriga dynasty, came his son was Sumati and his son was Bhuta Jyoti. Then Vasu was born from Bhuta Jyoti. Pratika was born from Vasu. Son of Pratika was Oghavan. And he also got a son with the same name, Oghavan. And he begot a daughter called Oghavati. In Narishyanta dynasty, his son was Chitrasena. Then his son was Riksha, then Midhavan. So as you can see in this slide, the whole dynasty of Narishyanta was described by Shukdev Goswami. And then in the dynasty of Dishta came a very famous king called Nabhag. And actually this Nabhag is different from the one who will be described later. And then his son was Bhalandan, Vatsapriti. Then his son was Pranshu. His son was Pramati. In this way, the descendants of Dishta they are described. So then after describing all this, Shukdev Goswami describes one of the dynasty of one of the sons of Dishta called Marutta. So Marutta, he was a very, very famous son of Dishta, and he performed wonderful, outstanding sacrifices under the direction of the great sage called Samvarta. So how he became famous? Because whatever sacrifice he would perform, all the paraphernalia which was used in the sacrifice, they would be made up of gold. And that's how he gave lots of charity to the Brahmanas also. And he offered lots of foodstuffs. And in his sacrifice, the famous devatas called Vishwa Devas, they were present. Indra also came and he was offered Somarasa. And he became completely intoxicated drinking this Somarasa. And then in the Marutta dynasty is described by Shukdev Goswami. And then after this, the dynasty of one of the descendants of Marutta called Vishala is described. So that is how the whole dynasty of various sons of Vaivasvat Manu, that is Karusha, Dhrishta, Nriga, Narishyanta, they are described. So now in the third chapter, Shukdev Goswami describes the story of the dynasty of the another son of Vaivasvata, that is Sharyati. So Sharyati, it will describe that he was very learned. He was very well learned in the scriptures, the Vedas. That's why he was called as Brahmishta. Brahmishta means he was learned in all the Vedas. So he performed, he instructed. He was so very learned that he instructed the descendants of Angira on performance of various yagyas. This Sharyati, he had a very beautiful lotus-eyed daughter named Sukanya. Once, Sharyati, he went with Sukanya in the forest to meet Chevan Muni. He went to the ashram of Chevan Muni. Chevan Muni was one of the sons of Bhrigu Rishi. So when the daughter and father, Sukanya and Sharyati, they reached the hermitage of Chevan Muni. Chevan Muni was not to be seen. Sukanya, she started wandering and collecting fruits in the forest. At one place, she saw anthill. There were 2 holes on the anthill, and he saw something glowing. Some light was coming from the inside of those 2 holes which were there on the anthill. Induced by providence, she thought maybe there is something inside, I should take it out. She ignorantly pierced the 2 holes with a thorn. But as she did that, blood started profusely coming out of the 2 holes. This Sukanya, she became very afraid. As soon as this happened, the soldiers of Sharyati, their stool and urine were obstructed. They were not able to pass even urine also. Sharyati was surprised seeing this. He asked, "It appears that someone among us have done something wrong. Somebody has polluted the ashram of Chayan Muni. Who has done this?" Sukanya, very afraid, she came in front of her father and she told what she had done. Sharyati, he realized that this is a great offense because this anthill was nothing other than the Chavan Muni covered with the anthill. And the 2 holes were the 2 eyes of Chavan Muni. So Chavan Muni became very angry, and being afraid of cursed by Chavan Muni, this Sharyati, he begged forgiveness. "Please forgive my foolish daughter." So Chavan Muni, he asked, "Is your daughter married?" So Chavan Muni was a very old saint, old sage. He was doing tapasya for thousands of years. He was very old. But when this Chavan Muni, he made this proposal, he asked, this Sharyati, he understood the intentions of Chavan Muni. And understanding the desire of Chavan Muni, this Sharyati, he gave his daughter in marriage to Chavan Muni. And then after that, Sharyati returned home. So that's how he avoided being cursed by Chavan Muni. Chavan Muni, by nature, he was very irritable, because he always wanted to be in a superior position. But this Sukanya, who was very young and beautiful, she was very chaste. She very humbly and politely, in such a chaste way, she served Chavan Muni in such a wonderful, nice way. Although her husband was very old, she started serving him very nicely, and this way he, conquered the heart of Chavan Muni. So Prabhupada writes a very nice purport describing the relationship between a husband and a wife. He says this is an indication of the wonderful relationship between a husband and a wife. He says if any wife wants to be happy with her husband, she must try to understand her husband's temperament and serve her accordingly. That is a victory of a woman. And then Prabhupada writes, when the wife is also irritable as the husband, then, the life at home is very disturbed. So therefore, so of course, then Prabhupada writes that both husband and wife, they have to understand each other and try to live properly in a peaceful way. But if they are not understanding each other's temperament and trying to just be in a superior position, then the family life cannot go on properly. So then Prabhupada writes, Westerners, they say, oh, this is a slave mentality for the wife. How can wife be subservient to husband? How can she keep on fulfilling all the requirements of the husband? Prabhupada writes, this is not the fact actually. This is the tactics by which a woman can conquer the heart of the husband. However irritable, however cruel the husband may be, if the wife serves the husband properly, the husband becomes conquered and controlled by the wife. So this Chavan Muni, he was being served by Sukanya very nicely. Once, Ashwini Kumaras, the physicians of the heavenly planets, they came to the ashram of Chavan Muni. And Chavan Muni, he requested them, if you make me young and beautiful, then I shall give you a pot of somrasa. Although you are not eligible to, take this somrasa, but still I'll give you. Please kindly arrange for my youth and the uh, beautiful body for me. I will give you somrasa. So Prabhupada writes that, in every department of material science, there is a expertise. Even in Ayurveda, nowadays in the modern medicine, the doctors and the scientists, they do not know how to make a person young. But in the Vedic scriptures, in Ayurveda, it is mentioned. And also, it is also mentioned how to bring a person back to life. And we heard in the story of Maidanav, how he was reviving all the demons back to life. So Prabhupada writes all that. The modern scientists, modern doctors, they don't know this art. If they want to know, they should take shelter of the Vedic scriptures. That's how Vedic knowledge is so very advanced. But then he says, all this is not required. The highest perfection is to become the devotee of the Lord. That's how one can achieve the highest perfection of life, of going back home, back to Godhead. And to attain this perfection, what one should do? Take shelter of Bhagavatam. One must consult Bhagavatam. That's what Prabhupada writes. So therefore, this reading Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavatam is so very important that if we really try to imbibe this knowledge, absorb our consciousness in this whole literature, then slowly but surely we'll get purified. Pravishta karna randrena swanam bhava saroruham dhunoti shamalam krishna salilasya yatha sharat. Just like when the autumnal rains come, everything gets cleansed. Similarly, Krishna Katha purifies the mind. Bhagavatam is called, this is dear to the Vaishnavas. Vaishnavanam priyam, Srimad Bhagavatam amalam, Vaishnavanam priyam. It is dear to Vaishnavas. So if we call ourselves as Vaishnavas, then Bhagavatam should be dear to us. So that's what Prabhupada writes here. The highest perfection can be attained by, consulting Bhagavatam. Madeka bandho, matsangi, madguno, madmahadhana, madnistaraka, madbhagya, madananda, namostute. Sanatana Goswami writes that only one friend I have is Bhagavatam. Madeka bandhu, my only relative, Bhagavatam. Matsangi, my only associate. Madguru, my only spiritual master. Mahadhana, my only treasure is Bhagavatam. So that's what Prabhupada writes. So when Ashwini Kumaras, they were requested by Chavan Muni in this way, he very gladly accepted this proposal. Chavan Muni, he was so old. He was not even able to, enter a pond. So there was a pond and Ashwini Kumaras, they told, okay, you take bath, you enter this pond. So they caught hold of Chavan Muni from the both sides, and all three of them together entered the pond. Because Chavan Muni was so old, he was not even able to enter the pond alone. So when they entered and they came out, all three of them were looking equally beautiful. You know, they were having all the beautiful bodily features, extremely attractive features. They came out. Sukanya, when she saw that, my husband, along with these Ashwini Kumaras, he entered this lake, and now three of them have come out. Who is my husband? She was not able to identify who is my husband. So she was such a chaste lady. She approached Ashwini Kumaras and she said, please reveal who is my husband. Ashwini Kumaras, they become very glad. Pleased with the chastity of Sukanya, they become very happy and they revealed that this is your husband, and then they return to heaven. So Prabhupada writes that chaste women will never accept any other man, however qualified he may be, other than her husband. So that is a chaste woman. One day, as now Sukanya is living with her very young, handsome, beautiful husband, one day Sharyati, father of Sukanya, he came to the ashram of Chevan Muni because he wanted to perform a sacrifice for moon god, pleasing moon god, Somayagya. When he entered the ashram of Chevan Muni, he saw, his daughter sitting with a young, handsome man. So Sukanya, as soon as she saw her father, she got up, she offered her respects. But Sharyati, he was so very displeased seeing this because he did not know the fact. So Sharyati rebuked Sukanya. He said, "Oh unchaste girl, you have cheated your husband. Your husband was so very respectable, he was honored by everyone, and just because you wanted to satisfy your senses, because he was old, diseased and invalid, you have given up your husband and you have accepted a paramour. You have accepted this young man as your husband. You are born in such a pure family. How come you have become so very shameless? How you have degraded your consciousness? This action of yours will lead both your dynasty, both our dynasty and dynasty of your husband to hell." Sharyati was very angry, very mad. Sukanya, as she was hearing all this, being proud of her chastity, she was smiling because she knew that this is my same husband, Chevan. So then she explained the whole story, how Chevan Muni, he was transformed into a youthful body by the mercy of Ashwini Kumaras. Sharyati, when he heard this, he became so very happy seeing the chaste nature of his daughter, and he blessed his daughter. He embraced his loving daughter. And then Chevan Muni, he enabled this Sharyati to perform Somayagya. And then from this Somayagya, he offered a full pot of Somarasa to Ashwini Kumaras as he had promised. When this pot was offered to Ashwini Kumaras, these Ashwini Kumaras, although they were unfit to drink it because they were just physicians, they were not some very high qualified devatas, they were just physicians. Indra became very angry. He took up the thunderbolt. He wanted to kill Chevan Muni. Chevan Muni, he was so very powerful. He, with his mantras, he paralyzed the arm of Indra. He could not even move his arm. Then somehow all the demigods, they accepted it and they allowed these Ashwini Kumaras to drink Somrasa also. So after describing the story of the daughter of Sharyati, he says, Shukdev Goswami says that, this Sharyati, he had three more sons, Uttana Barahi, Anartha and Bhuri Sena. Anartha, he had a son called Revata. This Revata, he ruled the entire kingdom called Kushasthali. And this Revata, he had 100 sons. The eldest of them was Kakudmi. So this Kakudmi, he had a very beautiful daughter called Revati. When this Revati, she reached the marriageable age, Kakudmi, like any other father, he wanted his daughter to be married to a perfect husband, perfect boy. So he chose to go all the way to Brahmaloka. He thought, Brahmaji, who can know better than Brahma? So he took his daughter Revati and he went all the way to Brahmaloka to ask Brahmaji who is a suitable boy for my daughter. But when they reached Brahmaloka, Brahmaji was engaged in seeing some musical performance by some Gandharvas, and that's why he could not meet even for a moment. So Kakudmi, he had to wait till the time the performance was going on. So some moments passed by, performance was over. So Brahmaji came out and he said, yes, yes, my son, please tell me why you have come here. So Kakudmi, he submitted the whole proposal. And Brahmaji, he heard this proposal, he laughed very loudly and he said, all those for whom you may have, wish to have you as your son-in-law, they have gone, their sons, their grandsons, their generations have passed. None of them have remained now. You may have decided, I'll marry my daughter to this person, but they have gone, their descendants have gone. He says, because you have spent few moments in Brahmaloka, on the Bhumandal, on the earthly planet, 27 yuga cycles have passed. 27 Chatur yugas have passed. Now nobody remains. So Prabhupada, he would tell very strongly that, when scientists, they hear about this, they don't believe this. But when some modern scientist like Einstein proposes a theory of relativity and explains the same thing in scientific words, then they say, then this is possible. So that's how our faith should be based on scriptures, not on the scientific background. So that's how our faith should be very, very strong, that when all these descriptions are heard, we should never ever question, oh, how is this possible? So Brahmaji says, that now, Krishna and Balram, they are ruling the Dwarka. Offer your daughter Revati to the most powerful Lord Balram, and he is the expansion of Lord Vishnu himself. He is a portion of Lord Vishnu. So that Supreme Lord, who is, himself the controller, maintainer, and annihilator, creator, he has appeared in the form of Balram. Anyone who chants and hears the name of Lord Balram, he becomes purified. Lord Balram is the supreme well-wisher of all the living entities. So please offer your daughter to Balram. So Kakudmi, he came down and when he returned to his residence, he saw that the residence was abandoned by all his relatives. Nobody was staying there because all the descendants of Kakudmi, they were running everywhere. They fled everywhere out of fear of yakshas. So this Kakudmi, he gave his daughter to Balram in marriage, and then he retired for Badrik ashram and perfected his life. So in the 10th canto, it is described in some more details are given. So this is the end of the 3rd chapter. So we'll stop here because next chapter is a wonderful description, a long chapter about Ambarish Maharaj. So we'll stop here. We'll continue tomorrow. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Anybody has any questions? You can ask. Okay, so thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.